Okay, welcome back everybody. This morning I was just doing a little bit of reading on the engineering side of electric motors and pulleys and stuff. Now, I'm not an expert by any means on this, but I'll share with you what I have learned and hopefully it's relevant to someone. I've got my motors out, as you can see, one here, one over there. It's winter, it's cold, it's, a mix between rain and snow, so not really the greatest time of year to be out on a pleasure boat. If it's a working boat, different story, but pleasure, not so fun. All right, so I was rummaging through a box of pulleys, and for some reason I had a box lying around, and it was full of all these pulleys and bushings and stuff like that I think I'd been messing around with over the years. So I decided to try on a couple of different pulleys to the setup. Normally, what this setup has is a 22 at the top here, and you can see it's a significantly smaller. There we go. Maybe that's a little more obvious. And a 48 at the bottom. So this is pretty much how the boat runs, like that. And that ratio is 2.18, I believe, in around there. What I currently have here is, I think this is 30, if I can read that correctly. I know my eyesight's going. And this is 56, so we're looking at around 1.87. Let's just call it 1.9. And, it's a bit of a more aggressive or less aggressive ratio in the sense that with this ratio, you're going to get less torque amplification than I would see in this ratio here. Not by much. I mean, we're splitting hairs, but nonetheless, you're going to get more torque out of a greater ratio. And a lot of people keep asking me, why do I have this gear reduction going? Well, the answer is simple, because these are smaller motors. They do produce a lot of continuous torque, but you want to amplify that torque, right? Especially with a big old heavy boat, right? If it was a lighter boat, like a little something that'll just jump on step and plane like no problem, yeah, you don't have to use a very aggressive gear ratio. But when it's a big heavy boat and you've got small motors pushing it, if the motors can produce torque, you might as well take that torque and amplify it. And that's why we have this gear ratio set up. Now in this setup here, as I said, it's less aggressive, which means that basically as this spins, the driver pulley, this is the the driven pulley, which spins the prop. So I might, say like no load or whatever, I'll see a little bit more RPM with this setup. Less torque, a little more RPM. With this setup, more torque, a little less RPM. Did I say that right? Yeah. That was good. And then, so here's the thing. What I was reading is that two things. Something called belt wrap, which has to do with how much your belt is in contact with the pulley. So currently, the belt actually is in pretty good contact with the 22 and the 48. But I was reading that if you have a really aggressive ratio, so I have like say a really large pulley at the bottom here and something smaller like this, if that belt is only connected to 6 teeth and under, I have to reduce the power rating for this belt if there's not enough contact with the pulley. So if it's 5 teeth, then I got to remove 20% off the equation, which I thought was really crazy. I think I read that on the Martin site, Martin Pulleys or something. I can't remember, but makes sense. So one thing to keep in mind, if you are setting up for a torquey system, you want to make sure you got that a lot more belt wrap going on. So it's something like that. That said, with a smaller pulley, it does take more effort to spin from the driver shaft. And a way to think about that is to look at wrenches, right? So you have to think about this as a lever, just for this example. So a larger pulley can be like a larger wrench, right? So with a larger wrench, you have more leverage. You know, you can just crank it more. It's a lot easier than if it was a smaller wrench, right? If it's a smaller wrench, you have to apply more power to it. You just don't get that leverage. So a smaller pulley is going to be like a smaller wrench. Now, again, I'm probably just splitting hairs here. I'm certain I'm splitting hairs, but I'm very curious to see what would happen if I just increase the size of the pulley like I have here. I have a little bit more belt wrap, like so. And obviously I needed a longer belt because to accommodate this whole situation. But I gain efficiency up here by using a larger pulley, more belt wrap, and yeah, I'll lose a little bit of torque because the ratio is less than what I currently have set up. But maybe I can just transfer, maybe I can borrow that efficiency and just put it down here and get a little more RPM out of it. Now, is it going to be anything noticeable? Probably not. I don't think so. But yeah, that's just a little bit of engineering coffee talk because, again, I'm not an engineer. I don't deal with this stuff all the time. I know enough about my boat and enough about this motor and the setup to somewhat speak somewhat intelligently about it. But when it gets into the mathematical engineering side, I'm actually scouring a lot of other channels. One guy that explains this really well is called Jeremy Fielding. I believe that's his channel. Interesting channel. Like the guy finds vacuum cleaner motors and he'll build like a bandsaw out of it. Or yeah, it's very like he's just I think he's an electrical engineer. But long story, he knows a lot about different types of motors. But yeah, I thought that was just really interesting. So I might actually order another one of these 56 tooth pulleys because mine magically went missing, although I'm pretty certain I know where it is. However, we're going to write it off. And I'm going to order one. Unfortunately, I have to order these from the UK. That's the only place I can get like a decent deal. Even though the shipping's a lot, it's still less than buying it from a local distributor here, which is really annoying. Anyway, so I'm thinking about increasing. I have another one of this, so I can use, I don't need to buy two of these. I can have 30 at the top and 56 at the bottom, giving myself a little bit smaller of a gear ratio. I need to buy a belt to set that up, and we'll see what happens. I don't know if it'll be any difference, maybe nothing, but I thought I'd just share that. Anyway, I might be waiting for this though, because so before you see me, if I get out in the boat, say in January, this setup might not be ready yet because I have to, once I get the pulley, I have to figure out the belt length and stuff like that. So as we all know, shipping is kind of wacky right now, so I don't know about the availability. Nonetheless, you know, I can always go back to the old system, the old pulley setup. Done.